You have a tailwind as far as liquidity is concerned. You had a headwind back in September with that, and now it's a tailwind, and you've got another tailwind happening, and that's a stablecoin issuance that's been accelerating over the last several months, and that bodes well for the entire ecosystem of crypto because you've got these stablecoins that are running on.
You ever get that feeling like something massive is happening right under everyone's nose, but nobody's paying attention? That's exactly what's going on right now. The world's financial system, this decades-old structure built on paper, debt, and trust, is quietly being rewritten. You won't see it on CNN. You won't hear it in schools. But if you've been following the right breadcrumbs, the IMF statements, the BIS experiments, the Ripple partnerships, Stellar's MoneyGram moves, Hedera's Enterprise Council, you know the new system is already being built. And here's the crazy part. Only about 1% of people truly understand how deep this goes. Most people are busy chasing headlines, arguing over politics, or trading meme coins. Meanwhile, the real shift, the infrastructure shift, is happening silently. The banks, the payment networks, the global regulators, they're all upgrading their systems behind the scenes. You've probably seen the term tokenization everywhere lately. That's not hype. That's the beginning of a massive migration. Stocks, bonds, currencies, commodities, everything being moved onto digital rails that can settle instantly. And guess what's powering those rails? Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum. It's XRP, XLM, and HBAR. See, this isn't about crypto anymore. That era of get rich quick is over. What's coming next is a complete rewrite of how value moves across the planet. XRP, XLM, and HBAR aren't trying to replace the system. They're becoming the foundation of the new one. While everyone was arguing about decentralization versus regulation, these networks were quietly building bridges with the very institutions that run the world's money flows. Look at Ripple. 4 years, they've been painted as the banker's crypto. But step back and see why. Ripple has been working with central banks on cross-border settlements, essentially upgrading SWIFT for the digital era. XRP's speed, cost efficiency, and regulatory clarity in 2025 make it the perfect settlement layer for global liquidity. Then there's Stellar, the quiet sibling in the background, focused on inclusion, remittances, and making sure people in developing countries can send and receive digital money as easily as sending a text. Its partnership with MoneyGram isn't just a headline. It's a bridge between fiat and digital currency at the retail level. And Hedera? That's the tech layer, the digital backbone being integrated into enterprise and government systems for things like stablecoins, digital ID, and tokenized carbon credits. These three networks are not random coins, they are the blueprint. Together, they represent a compliant, scalable, and decentralized future. And that's exactly what the world's biggest financial players have been waiting for. Now let's talk about the why. Why now? Why 2025? Because the system's breaking. Inflation, de-dollarization, supply chain shocks. It's all pushing global finance to its limits. The old pipes can't handle the new economy. SWIFT was built in the 1970s. You can't run a real-time, digital, AI-driven financial world on infrastructure that still takes days to move money. That's like trying to stream Netflix on a dial-up modem. So the IMF, the World Bank, and the BIS are moving fast but quietly. Behind the closed doors of their pilot programs, they're testing how cross-border CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, could talk to each other using blockchain interoperability. Ripple has been in those tests. Stellar has been in those tests. Hedera has been a technology partner in discussions about governance, data privacy, and carbon accounting. All three are solving real, global problems that have nothing to do with speculation, and everything to do with restructuring the world's money flow. You'll notice something interesting. These aren't anarchist, anti-bank projects. They're built to work within regulation to satisfy KYC, AML, and compliance, while still offering the transparency and efficiency of blockchain. That's the sweet spot. The world doesn't want chaos. It wants control with convenience. These networks provide both. And while most people are distracted, the elite financial architects are quietly positioning themselves. You think it's a coincidence that Ripple got regulatory clarity just as global institutions started adopting ISO 20022 messaging standards? You think it's an accident that Stellar expanded its UN and MoneyGram partnerships right as global remittance rails are shifting to blockchain? Or that Hedera's governing council, Google, IBM, Standard Bank, Boeing reads like a who's who of enterprise infrastructure? This isn't random. It's coordinated. We're entering the phase where digital assets aren't investments. They're infrastructure. XRP, XLM, and HBAR are becoming the invisible highways of value transfer. You might not even realize you're using them one day. Your bank transfers, your digital wallet, your government benefits, all of it could run on these networks in the background. And the crazy part is, most of the world won't even notice the change. Just like people didn't realize the internet had replaced so many analog systems until it was already too late to catch up. That's what's happening right now with money. So while the 99% argue about price charts and elections, the 1% are studying policy papers from the IMF and BIS. They're tracking pilot programs, watching MoneyGram Stellar integrations, and reading between the lines when Ripple announces new partnerships. Because all these moves point to one conclusion. A new, programmable financial system is coming. And when it hits, it won't be gradual. It'll be instant. You know what's wild? The institutions that once laughed at crypto are now the ones building their future on it. The IMF, BIS, and World Bank, the same old powerhouses that used to warn about digital asset risks, are now testing blockchain networks for settlement and liquidity. But they're not picking random blockchains. They're not touching meme coins or unstable DeFi experiments. They're studying the networks that can fit inside regulation, scale globally, and still give them real-time data and security. That short list? XRP, XLM, and HBAR. Let's start with the IMF. Their 2025 digital infrastructure roadmap is focused on interoperability between national CBDCs. They've realized that if countries roll out their own digital currencies but can't connect them across borders, global trade collapses. So, they've been quietly testing messaging and liquidity bridges using Ripple's tech stack. Ripple's XRP ledger already has proven settlement speed and cost efficiency. The IMF isn't adopting it officially, they'll never announce it like that, but they're learning from its design. Even their latest policy papers talk about neutral bridge assets for cross-border settlement. Sound familiar? That's literally XRP's purpose. Then there's the World Bank, which has shifted from criticizing crypto to experimenting with tokenized bonds and digital identity pilots. Back in 2024, they began using permissioned ledgers for infrastructure funding and sustainability tracking. Guess who's been advising on that? Members of the Hedera Governing Council. BAR's consensus service allows transparent, tamper-proof record-keeping, exactly what the World Bank needs for climate tracking, development grants, and transparent disbursements. The tech is already being integrated into environmental and sustainability reporting systems tied to their 2030 agenda. And the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, the central bank of central banks, has been running pilot projects that look suspiciously like what Ripple and Stellar already do. Their Project Agora and mBridge experiments focus on connecting different CBDCs into one settlement layer. They're not reinventing the wheel, they're observing how RippleNet and Stellar Connect already handle interoperability. BIS researchers have even referenced permissioned public networks with verified validators as the most likely model for institutional adoption. That's basically Hedera's hybrid architecture in a nutshell. Meanwhile, Stellar's collaboration with MoneyGram is bridging fiat and blockchain liquidity on a global scale. By 2025, that integration now supports direct wallet-to-cash conversion in multiple regions, and IMF observers have reportedly monitored those pilots for financial inclusion data. Stellar isn't just moving money. It's showing the world how blockchain can coexist with legacy banking, smoothly, compliantly, and at scale. So while the headlines talk about crypto bans or regulatory pressure, the reality is the complete opposite. The same regulators are copying, partnering, and learning from these networks. They're using Ripple to test liquidity corridors, Stellar to prove inclusion, and Hedera to validate transparency and sustainability. The public thinks the old system's in control, but behind the scenes, the architecture is already shifting. Most crypto holders are focused on price charts, FOMO, and the next bull run. But the real revolution is structural, not speculative. XRP, Stellar, XLM, and Hedera HBAR are quietly building the framework for a new global financial system, and less than 1% of people truly grasp what's happening. These networks are not just alternative payment rails. They are blueprints for interoperable, compliant, and scalable finance. Take XRP first. Designed from the outset for interbank settlements, RippleNet connects multiple fiat currencies across borders with near-instant speed and minimal fees. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, which prioritize decentralization at all costs, XRP was engineered for efficiency and regulatory compliance. Its pre-mined supply and escrow system allow Ripple to maintain liquidity control while still enabling decentralized validation. This duality, centralized enough for regulators, decentralized enough for security, makes XRP attractive to banks, multinational corporations, and international organizations. In fact, project pilots by central banks and the BIS mirror the same principles RippleNet has been demonstrating. Real-time cross-border settlement without the inefficiencies of SWIFT. Stellar, meanwhile, focuses on financial inclusion. XLM enables anyone, from individuals in emerging markets to fintech firms, to move money quickly and cheaply, often in partnership with regulated anchors. Its integration with MoneyGram is a prime example. Cash can be converted into XLM, transferred across borders instantly, and redeemed at local outlets. This isn't just a convenience. It's a global liquidity solution that bypasses the friction of traditional banking. Stellar's protocol is compliant by design, allowing KYC/AML procedures to integrate directly into the network. For the IMF and World Bank, this model demonstrates how blockchain can expand access to financial services without sacrificing oversight. Hedera HBAR introduces a different advantage: enterprise-grade scalability and governance. Hedera's hashgraph consensus enables thousands of transactions per second with finality in seconds, making it suitable for tokenized assets, micropayments, and smart contract applications. Its governing council, composed of multinational corporations and public organizations, ensures legal predictability and reduces systemic risk. This governance model is exactly what institutions like the IMF and BIS are looking for: a network that can support CBDC experimentation, cross-border liquidity, and compliance-heavy applications without stalling innovation. What unites these three networks is a shared philosophy: decentralized enough to ensure security and resilience, compliant enough to satisfy regulators. This hybrid design is critical. Pure DeFi platforms offer decentralization but often lack legal clarity or risk mitigation, which makes them unattractive for global financial institutions. XRP, XLM, and HBAR, however, balance decentralization with accountability, making them testable and usable within existing regulatory frameworks. Real-world adoption is accelerating. MoneyGram's XLM integration demonstrates that blockchain can reduce costs, improve speed, and maintain regulatory compliance. Banks experimenting with XRP are testing real-time settlement corridors, while Hedera pilots include tokenized asset settlements and micropayments in emerging markets. The IMF and World Bank are observing these developments closely, analyzing how regulated, interoperable blockchains can become foundational infrastructure for the next-generation financial system. The stakes are high. The networks most likely to dominate the next financial system aren't necessarily those with the flashiest prices or the biggest hype. They are the ones with interoperability, speed, compliance, and institutional adoption baked into their architecture. XRP, XLM, and HBAR tick all these boxes. For the 1% paying attention, this is not just speculation. It's a glimpse into how money will move globally over the next decade. In summary, while 99% of crypto participants are focused on short-term gains, these networks are quietly reshaping the world's financial infrastructure. XRP provides liquidity and settlement corridors, XLM enables financial inclusion and borderless payments, and HBAR offers scalable, regulated enterprise solutions. Together, they are laying the groundwork for a new financial system, one where decentralized networks coexist with regulatory oversight, speed, and transparency. This is the revolution that less than 1% of investors truly understand, but those paying attention now could be positioned at the forefront of the next global financial paradigm. The truth is stark. Less than 1% of people truly understand how XRP, XLM, and HBAR are quietly shaping the global financial system. While mainstream headlines obsess over short-term price swings, these networks are laying the infrastructure for the future of money. XRP enables real-time cross-border settlements for banks. Stellar, XLM, drives financial inclusion and seamless remittances, and Hedera, HBAR, provides enterprise-grade scalability and compliance for institutions and regulators. Individually, they are powerful. Together, they form a new financial architecture that is fast, compliant, and globally interoperable. For those watching the market purely as speculators, this is a wake-up call. The real opportunity isn't about chasing a 10x or 100x coin. It's about understanding which networks will underpin the next generation of finance. RippleNet, Stellar's remittance corridors, and Hedera's enterprise deployments are all being observed, tested, and even supported by institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and central banks exploring digital currencies. The adoption is not hypothetical, it's happening now, and it's setting the stage for decades of financial evolution. If you're serious about staying ahead, this is your chance to look beyond the hype. Understand the networks, track institutional adoption, and study real-world use cases. XRP, XLM, and HBAR aren't just cryptocurrencies, they are infrastructure. They are building the rails on which tomorrow's financial system will run. Now, here's what I want you to do. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss updates on these transformative networks. Comment below with your thoughts. Which network do you see driving the biggest change in global finance? XRP, XLM, HBAR, or all three? Share this video with anyone still stuck looking at charts instead of infrastructure. Help wake them up to the 1% who see the bigger picture. This is your chance to understand where the world of money is heading before the mainstream catches up. Don't be left on the sidelines when the new financial system goes live. Watch, learn, and position yourself wisely. Remember, 99% of people will never fully understand this shift, but you don't have to be part of that 99%. You're here, you're paying attention, and that's the first step towards seeing the bigger picture. XRP, XLM, and HBAR aren't just coins. They are the building blocks of the future financial world. Don't just watch history happen, understand it, and be ready to act when the infrastructure you see today becomes the standard of tomorrow.